with Aave and Compound, you wouldn't be able to get this type of versatility that Morpho is able to accomplish because what they're doing is they're outsourcing the management of these vaults to curators. Curators like Gauntlet, curators like RE7 Labs.
DeFi Explorers, welcome back to Wagmi TV. Today we are navigating really the complexities of decentralized lending with a deep dive into Morpho, right? We've talked about this a few times. Protocol aims to optimize lending on platforms like Compound, Aave, etc., promising better rates, capital efficiencies. But in the fast-paced world of DeFi, can Morpho truly deliver on its promises is the real question, right? So we'll get into a couple cool strategies today, look at the charts. Obviously, it's been a little bit bloody. Of course, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research. But with that, I'll pass it over to Evan.
Yeah, it certainly has been bloody. But, I think one of the things that you learn as you cover some of these bloody cycles is that these teams keep building, progress keeps happening, and we're continuing to see that within DeFi. So let's hop over to DeFi Llama, where I just want to pull up the base page for you guys. And what I really want to show here is just a quick overview of how the TVL is doing on base. We are seeing, obviously a decline, but, not a full drop off from the TVL that we've seen that was accumulated in late 2024, getting up, I think we covered it right at 3 billion there, almost up to like 4 billion. And so what I want to scroll down here to show is the movement that Morpho has been able to achieve. So, just in the last 7 days, it's up 20%. But I think the big milestone here is that it eclipsed Uniswap on base in TVL. And, you could arguably say it's kind of coming after Aerodrome. Aerodrome was up about 1.1, 1.2 billion at one point, I believe, and now it's come down to 700 million in TVL. Morpho is continuing to grow and is, sitting at 530 million. But some of the big things, like we've covered on this channel, is that there's a lot of Morpho news, including the crypto-backed loan or asset-backed loans that Coinbase is going to offer to its users, is going to run through the Morpho infrastructure. So that's a huge addition to, in the future, the customers that Morpho will be servicing. I think something I also want to talk to you guys about is another reason we're so bullish on Morpho is it runs a lot of the infrastructure for other base protocols. So if we were to scroll down here and check out Moonwell and check out Seamless, if you were to dive into Morpho, you see that the Moonwell vaults and the Seamless vaults are there, and that's where all the borrowing and lending is actually happening. Moonwell and Seamless have their own UIs, they have their own websites, but really the levers and the mechanics behind these protocols are using Morpho to be able to accomplish their rates. So yeah, hopping into Morpho here, I just wanted to show you guys an example of these Seamless vaults and what you can accomplish here. So yeah, with Seamless, there's this USDC vault that's getting 7% right now. Seamless is kind of interesting. I think it's a somewhat relatively new project, maybe one we want to cover here in the future. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on if you guys have heard of Seamless, if you're bullish on it, down in the comments. But it's one we haven't covered yet, and it's also interesting because it's right now only on base. And so that's something that kind of catches our eye, just like Aerodrome, where it's base focus. This is where they're trying to grow their ecosystem. So we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. But yeah, diving into the vaults here, you can get 7% on USDC, 5% on Wrapped ETH, and 3.3% on your CBBTC. So honestly, pretty good gains here. And I think it's just interesting that if you were to go to the Seamless UI, these are actually the vaults that you're going to be depositing to from their UI. So yeah, just another reason why Morpho is so critical to the infrastructure with Base, because it's really running a lot of the borrowing and lending mechanics behind the scene for some of those protocols that you're seeing on that DeFi Llama list. So yeah, I know that was a lot, Mata, but yeah, you got any thoughts on what I just went through there?
No, and I think it's really super interesting to bring up that they are kind of a portion of the infrastructure now, right?
Yeah.
With them being really from a a chart perspective, from a coin perspective, fairly new, right? I think they launched just at the end of 2024 when we first covered it. And I think it's really impressive to see how much they've grown just in that short period of time. Like on that DeFi Llama chart for TVL that you brought up, I do you remember what they were at when we first covered them? I know it was like 10th or 11th on that list, and now they're up to second, which is absolutely insane. But I think in general, right, especially in market conditions like this, right, 3%, 7%, 10%, it doesn't look super flashy.
Yeah.
But especially as these things are, tanking, we're not exactly having the best start to spring, right, in the crypto space. It's at least a place where you can kind of park those coins, park that money, where you can at least make some return on that, kind of like a high interest savings in a way. But Morpho as a whole, right, I think it's super interesting, right? All the things we've talked about so far, but also just we often talk about how do we get more consumers into DeFi? How do we get DeFi adopted more? And I think Morpho plays a really interesting role in that by making decentralized lending just more efficient, more user friendly, and so has really the potential to be that driver for greater adoption of DeFi, whether people know they're utilizing Morpho or not. To your point, I think just anything that helps reduce barriers to entry for users who could be intimidated by the complexities of, what some of these lending protocols have traditionally looked like. I think obviously that leads to higher total value locked for DeFi as a whole, and of course for Morpho. So I think they sit in a really interesting position. And again, as these bear markets kind of go, if that's what we're in, a lot of programs and projects actually start to really develop themselves here. So it'd be really awesome to continue to see Morpho grow.
Yeah. And I think, let me just add one thing onto that.
Yeah.
Another reason, and you nailed it, like a big reason why Morpho is seeing these gains compared to a compound or compared to an Aave is because of the versatility of the program. And so if you were to dive in here, this is a universal, which is a protocol, USDC vault. And the collateral for this vault is these essentially wrapper tokens for Sol, for Aptos, for Sui. And so, with Aave and Compound, you wouldn't be able to get this type of versatility that Morpho is able to accomplish, because what they're doing is they're outsourcing the management of these vaults to curators like Gauntlet, curators like RE7 Labs. And so I think, if you're asking yourself, why is this any different than an Aave or a Compound or some of these other borrowing and lending protocols? It's because of the versatility and the outsourcing of the management of these vaults. They're able to bring in more assets than some of these other protocols could. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out because one of those points you had just reminded me how versatile this can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tons more to come, right? That's Morpho in a nutshell, and some of the things that we're looking at. Obviously, enhanced lending, peer-to-peer matching, improved efficiency, all those things are what we'll be highlighting when it comes to Morpho and some of the changes that they're making. But just remember, DeFi evolves fast, right? We've seen coins shoot up and then all of a sudden they become non-existent not too long after that. So just make sure to stay informed, do your own research, approach all of this with caution. But of course, thanks for listening. If you found any of this useful, please like, comment, and subscribe below. And we'll see you next week. Wagmi.